I told myself, I'm like, Tanaaz, if your legs can't move you, your mind can move you. Why don't you use that for a change? And I think that was the turning point. When I just, that was the turning point.
So, how she's taken her life? Everything was good, she's happy. One difficult scene, allowed herself to become a victim, and then suddenly everything goes wrong. Now, the scene has not changed, the mind changed. So, this every single person needs to pick here. Don't wait for the scene to change.
This whole thing, the courage to change the things you can and the serenity to accept what you can't. So, knowing that all that you can really work on is yourself and the wisdom to know the difference so that you can do the right thing. A very warm welcome to another edition of the Think Right podcast. And we have with us today someone who was from the 90s, you will recognize as a top television star in Zaban Sambhal Ke, Swabhiman, Kaho Na Pyar Hai, Tannaz Irani. Thank you so much, Tannaz, for being here with us today on this very interesting conversation that we're going to have with you. You're also a master with us on the Think Right, app. And of course, your connection with our spiritual guide and our enlightened one who is here on our show, Sister VK Shivani, started when you said 16 years ago when you heard something.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that to begin this conversation.
Yes, so 16 years ago, I had just given birth to my second child, and I was sitting at home alone, with postpartum depression. And at that time, there was no Instagram, and it wasn't so, viral, all these reels that we see nowadays. And I just saw a very simple talk about Sister Shivani talking about food and how we should eat our food. And I thought this was a nurse speaking. Because I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I had no idea. And I said, Acha, what is it? Let me hear it. About how you should respect your food, eat it slowly, and enjoy every morsel, all the delicious flavors, and thank it, bless it. I don't know what happened that day, but I completely resonated with her and her tonality, the way she was speaking. And I'm like, I'm going to try this. And so much to this date, now it's of course very organic because it's been 16 years that I've been using this. I always bless my food. I always think about, what has been put into it. I always eat it with love and I cherish it. And and ever since then, the journey started, and 16 years later, I was approached to be, one of the coaches on the thinkrite.me app. And I'm like, are you sure you want me to do this? And this happened right after I had decided that I wanted to become an NLP practitioner and a coach and a teacher and a transformational, motivational speaker.
Lovely.
So, I completely manifested Sister Shivani into my life. Took her from the cosmos and put her in my space.
And here we are today.
And today we're here once again, when they called me, I'm like, एक minute. I was like, yeah. Are you sure? हम लोग कभी पीछे मुड़ के देखते हैं. Is that me? So yes, I've completely in awe. I was completely so excited. And once again, it gave me the feeling like how I used to attend my shootings when I was just 22 and all the excitement. And I'm like, wow, this is so fantastic. I'm so alien to this feeling, because as you grow up, you get all the viruses in you and you get defunct with all your original
you lose
feelings.
That innocence.
Yeah. And I said, I'm so loving this. I'm back to when I was young and a kid and a teenager.
No, and it's reflecting in your personality, and we'd love to make this conversation as energetic as we have kind of started this off, But tell us a little bit about your journey, right? Getting fame early on in life, and then going through different phases. You said the food is definitely working because you're glowing.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
You have a 32-year-old, from what I understand.
Yes.
Different generation. Take us a little bit through your life.
So I'll fast forward you because I don't know how many people are super duper interested. But I have 3 children. So my eldest is 32. She's a pastry chef. I have a son who's 16 and he is dying to be everything in the world, from a DJ to an actor to a, neuroscientist, so no, but everything he wants to be. And then I have a youngest one, she's 12, and she's the grandmother of the house, always giving us all pravachans. In fact, in front of her, I forget that I am the NLP coach originally. So that's that life. I had gone through a divorce very early on when my eldest was about 8 or 9. I'm not the quintessential mother. I always let my children dream. I always tell them, give me an idea that's going to change the world. I'm like, don't wait to work for Google. You think of something that's going to be like Google. So I'm not the typical PTA mother. So I'm very different. When I was 8 years old, I knew I wanted to be an actress. I had no one to speak to. I had no one to talk to about my dreams. So I remember my uncle from London in those days had come with a little diary with a little lock, chabi ke saath. And I'm like, wow, yeah, since nobody in my Parsi family is going to listen to me about my dreams to become a Hindi movie actress. So I said, let me start writing. And I wrote and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote ever since I was 8 years old about everything that was there in my heart. And I would constantly look at myself in the mirror and think that I was this actress, with the dupatta and everything. And now when I look back in hindsight, that's what you call journaling and manifestation and visualization, right? But at that time, I had no clue because we didn't even have phones, not even cordless phones. Like, I'm a dinosaur. So, and that's when years later, when I finally did the scientific course called neuro-linguistic programming, and I put everything together and the synergy kind of just mixed, that's when I thought that my entire life, I've been doing everything that I'm learning in this book. Just in between, I think I forgot who I was, because when that life-altering incident happened and I just couldn't walk, I think that's when my entire life that I'd built up completely fell in front of me. I felt that whatever I had built up for 30 years, is it going to end like this? God surely can't make it end like this. There's got to be a bigger picture. What is the bigger picture? And when I look back at that girl in the mirror, who I had made for all these 30 years, I just couldn't recognize her. She didn't have that smile which went up to her eyes. She didn't have faith in herself. She'd become negative, negative. I couldn't smile. I was manifesting at a very low realm. I was speaking very negatively about myself, to myself and to others. And I said, no, this can't be my story. This can't be my story, and I don't know what to do. I don't know who to ask. Because I made myself become an actress on my own. So I'm like, who's going to give me my life back? And that's when I was scrolling through Instagram because I just couldn't walk. I was, walking with a stick. And I mean, like, life was really looking bad to me. And I came across this NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And I said, all these years, I've always wanted to do something. Now I've got the time. And I told myself, I'm like, Tanaaz, if your legs can't move you, your mind can move you. Why don't you use that for a change? And I think that was the turning point. When I just, that was the turning point. And I said, okay, if I'm in utmost darkness, and then someone sent me, a line saying that if you can't see anything and you're in total darkness, that means you're being planted. So I'm like, okay, if I'm planted, that's great. But what am I supposed to grow into? Can anyone send me that? Where is the next part of this Instagram reel? And I'm sitting there by myself and, nobody had faith in me or even thought that I would do anything out of this course. But I did the course and I really improved. I came out of that dark space. I kind of started resonating in a better space. And because of that, I manifested the perfect doctor who could cure me, because for 2 years, I was just going from pillar to post, MRI, CT scan. I mean, I've been through it all. Okay, I became half a doctor about my hip and my leg and everything. And that's when I said, you know what? The vibrations were matching. I got the perfect doctor, like in a split second. I got the 2 of my best shows just as much as I could handle. I mean, the universe was again working for me. Again, I was the universe's pet child. I felt I was blooming, even though I was still walking like that. Do you understand? And NLP taught me that even if you're in the worst state of your life, just because you've elevated yourself to another vibrational level, now you're looking for the things that are going to help you. Yeah. It's like the torch is in your hand. Where are you going to aim that light? And that's when it all kind of merged together. And I finished the course. I went for the convocation. I hobbled all the way up to get my award. It didn't bother me. It didn't bother me that people are going to make fun of me, or that I am, limping all over the place. And I was in pain. I was taking down a lot of tablets, obviously, but I made it there. I was on the wheelchair all the time at the airports and everywhere, but I didn't care. I'm like, there's a bigger picture, and I'm going to find that bigger picture. Till I don't find it, I'm not going to rest. So then in November, I had my operation, and in 6 months, I'm now an NLP coach, transformational coach. So, when I teach my students and I'm with them, and I know they're going through so much, I can completely relate. And
they can relate too.
Yeah, right? And I can assure them that, if you think that you're completely in the dark, don't worry, just breathe, let it go. Because, the best part about letting go is, even if you keep breathing and you just take in, you're going to suffocate. You have to let go to take in the next breath, isn't it? You have to let go of even your breath to get in the next breath. So that's what I teach them. Don't just keep taking. And then I also found that when I was going through the worst phase of my life, that's, I think, gave me the best phase of my life.
Now, it's always like that. And, I think your story, as you've so beautifully encapsulated in these few minutes, is really one which I know you, Sister Shivani, have been, we've been talking about it on Think Right. We've been, you have such a strong understanding and, contextualize this, the power of the mind, the power of the ability to create your situations rather than, react and respond to that. She reinvented her 8-year-old self again, right? So in life, this power of, cultivating the mind to be able to be that, it can also sometimes regress, right? Because, so what, consistency and all of that is quite critical in things like this.
Yeah, because sometimes when everything is going good for you outside, it's easy to think right. Because we've conditioned the human mind to be dependent on the outer situation. So I'll say, I'm happy because of, I'm happy because of, I'm happy because of, I'm doing well. And then automatically you're creating higher energy thoughts because situations are good for you. So it starts going a spiral, which means you will start moving upwards. Situation is right, you're creating a good thought. You're creating a good thought, situations are getting good for you, because actually it is Sankalp se Srishti. So your thoughts are creating your world. But a good situation has come to you from your past karma. So now when that good situation comes to me from my past karma, I create a good thought. Now my present karma is a good thought. Now that good thought will create another good outcome, and it will go spiral into good. And suddenly some past karma will throw one ball, which is not a good situation. And if you look at lives of people, this happens. Everything is going perfect, and one scene and everything has changed. One scene. You need one scene of life to change everything. But now that scene of life which is not good is only outside. But because I have not taught my mind to think right in a wrong situation. Wrong means I call that situation wrong for me that time. Now that spiral starts moving in the opposite direction. Because this is an unpleasant situation for me. I feel I'm allowed to create pain emotionally also. I'm allowed to create fear. I'm allowed to create insecurity. I'm allowed to be a victim because I'm a victim to that situation. And the equation is Sankalp se Srishti. Now I have started creating negative thoughts. So my Srishti, which means my life, will start moving in that direction. And that's why when everything is going good, it's easy for the spiral to go there. When something doesn't go right, it's easy for the spiral to move down, because one scene is your past karma, and that's what we saw last time. What comes to me is past karma. How I respond to what comes to me is present karma. So what is spirituality going to teach me? When an unpleasant scene comes to you, create a good thought in that scene. so that your spiral doesn't go here, because your sankalp is now going to create your destiny. Your present karma is going to create your next destiny. So now we get to learn from this real life example. That's why we don't need to see movies. We learn like this. Now there's nothing more interesting than this story. Will you find this story anywhere there? No. And real, you know why? Because it comes with their emotions, it comes with their vibrations. It's not scripted, it's so authentic. There's no more learning than any of this. So we are going through the programming. If the scene changes, then I will be happy. So she could have lived her life like a victim, saying, when this body will get perfect, then I will be happy. That is that dependency of the mind on the situation. How can I be happy when I'm not being able to walk? How can I be happy when I'm not being able to? So we say that thing to ourselves. How can I be happy? How can I be happy? I will be happy when the situation is right. But now, because I'm allowing myself to be in pain, situation will get even more complicated. So to always remember the equation, Sankalp se Srishti, not Srishti se Sankalp. So even if your entire Srishti is messed up, which means everything in your life is going wrong. Sometimes I say, if your body is not well, your relationships are crumbling, you've lost your job. So yeah, the complete Srishti is gone wrong. Take care of your Sankalp, everything will come back. Everything. So that's her experience. That she then worked on her mind, she stopped working on the body, because she was not getting the answers that time. But see, when you worked on your mind, you created higher energy thoughts, you found the right doctor, affirmation. But that affirmation is not a selected conscious affirmation, but your right thinking is also an affirmation. But your wrong thinking is also an affirmation. So when we repeat, especially in situations, we get used to this wrong thinking affirmations. मेरे साथ क्या हो गया? मेरे साथ क्या हो गया? So we are saying life is not fair. We keep saying life is not fair. I never did anything wrong with anybody. Then that's how the karma will start getting created, and then destiny will move in that direction. You can live your entire life as a victim, but most important, when the soul will leave the body, they will again carry that negative karma and that negative thought process even into their next. So it doesn't even end with my one outer suffering in one lifetime. So most of our emotional patterns have come from past lives. Because we didn't change them last time. Had we changed them last time, our destiny would have changed in the previous life also, and we would have started on a better note here. So much important to just change. So only very deep learning from here. Don't make your mind dependent on your situation. It's your mind which will change the situation, not the situation that will change your mind.
Who doesn't face a crisis, right? Who doesn't face these situations?
Who
Everyone.
doesn't?
It's just sometimes the earlier you face it in life and you're able to realize this formula, as you like to call it, of, the way you will manifest a perfect life, the better, a person becomes equipped to do that. And I think with Think Right, with you, with of course what Sister Shivani is also putting through, is we're trying to help people or make people understand and aware that it's as simple actually as that, right? And your example is so brilliant. But you also talked about NLP, right? And this is a more scientific approach, to the vibration and how do you change that life. I mean, spirituality over the years has been talking about what we've just discussed.
Absolutely.
Philosophers, you've always heard Western philosophers, and this whole thing, the courage to change the things you can and the serenity to accept what you can't. So knowing that all that you can really work on is yourself, and the wisdom to know the difference so that you can do the right things. So I think everything comes down to exactly this.
Absolutely.
So how, if you were to look at NLP today, Tanaaz, how do you see that, when it's in the context of spiritual learning? Is it because it's a more scientific way to help people, program themselves towards this? How does it work, if you can just explain in a few minutes a little bit more about that?
Actually, spirituality and NLP are one and the same thing. It's just that a lot of people who don't believe in spirituality, they need a scientific backing. And when you tell people about manifestation, then they feel, oh, it's a lot of humbug. I mean, how can I just think about a car and it'll come, and where are you going to get the money from? So I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way. There are vibrations that you send out in the universe. So this is what we teach in NLP. When you are vibrating at a higher megahertz, you are sending to the universe that I am the receiving center for gratitude, or I am the receiving center for happiness, or I am the receiving center for anger, or I am the receiving center for depression, send me more. So the universe never gives you what you want. The universe will give you how you are vibrating. And that is science, because Einstein said that everything that you have here is matter. Everything that has matter has energy. Everything that has energy is vibrating, and everything that is vibrating has a frequency. So at that frequency, you are matching the frequency of the universe. The universe says, this lady is happy, she's grateful, she's thankful. That's what I was. So let's send her something more. Let's send her something more. And if in that is a car, then it's a car. If in that is a doctor, it's a doctor. Whatever you are vibrating for. And that's exactly how it works. Because your prefrontal cortex, and there's a term called RAS, which is reticular activation system. Whatever you are thinking of is like a Google search engine. Kaisa hota hai? Your algorithms, like on my algorithms, you'll see a lot of pravachans and how are you and take care of yourself and everything, right? Inner work and all. Now, on my daughter's algorithm, you will see all funny things and memes and cooking and something like that. So, on your algorithm, what are you putting out from your neocortex where you make your decisions? Your decisions are by your neocortex, and the amygdala are your emotions. And that just helps you to amalgamate the two of them. And because I didn't have anyone to hold my hand and teach me or tell me that, listen, there's a strategic way that you can get out of this. There is a proper way that we can do this together. I want to be that person for so many innumerable people who, like Sister Shivani said, they've lost their job, they're divorced, they don't have any money, and they don't know what to do. And on my webinars, I can see them crying. I can completely see myself in them. And I just want to say, just have faith in the system, because it just works. And because you can't walk into a boardroom, okay, where the CEO is there and all his head of departments and say, you know what, I've got a fantastic idea. And if you listen to me, it's going to change the world. They're going to say, great, have a cup of coffee and the door's right there. I can't do that. I've written it in my book. I can't do that. I needed to have a backing of science. I needed to have a backing that, listen, what I'm going to teach you is not all humbug, it's not all spiritual, because there's so many men out there who don't want to believe in it, because we're not conditioned to believing in things that we can't see. If I tell you that for your physical body, you need to have good food, nutrition, exercise, diet, sunshine, you'll be like, yeah, boss, bang on, you're a great teacher. But if I tell you, what about your psychological needs? What about your psychological needs? And you'll be like, what? What about them? I'm fine. No, you're not. You haven't addressed half the topics that you were brought up. You haven't addressed half the topics that are actually showing on you today. Maybe, who knows, all the trauma that I had gathered was all settling into my hip. And I hadn't addressed it because I was, like ma'am said, so la, my life is going so well. And they said, no, universe said, no, you need to shut down. We need to shut you down, you little energetic Duracell battery. We need you to go in. That's why my course is called Go into Your Inner Power. Go into yourself, because whatever you need is there inside you.
I think your book is If I Can, You Can Too.
If
right?
I can,
it's as
so
simple
can
as
you.
that.
Nice title.
Same Sister Shivani also says,
we teach you
there
the
are so many examples
of reframing, thinking what you need to think. Everything is scientific.
And the brain, the way you described it, is actually a tool.
It is.
Mind, consciousness we talk of, the tool through which, through this body we are able to do that. And I think science is able to study what it can see, what it can. And I think the least research today in our body, human science has made so much progress, right? It's still the brain.
Yeah.
And I think billions of dollars today are being spent to understand the brain, the way it works.
Yeah.
And I see, as we see NLP and you see quantum theory today, you see quantum mechanics, you see spirituality, there is a convergence happening. And I think it's happening at a pace much faster than we could imagine. Computing capacity is going to go up like crazy, so you can look at data, process it, get a lot more there. And I think we are leading kind of leading towards, a convergence. I mean, do you see that? Because you're also an engineer. You've also understood the science behind some of the spiritual practices. Do you really see science being able to prove everything that we are talking today? Do you see that will take time? Is it more experience of millions of people that will lead to, the theories being established? How do you see this going into the future?
See, we always need proof, right? Without proof, I wouldn't believe it. So there are two ways to prove something. Either science proves it or your experience proves it to you. Even in her case, it's her experience which is proved to her. Then she's learned the technology behind it. Now what will happen? She will teach that technology to people. It will still not become their truth till they experience with that truth. So they have to experiment it. So even if she teaches them from her experience, this happened to me, this happened, and see how the different people will take it in different ways. Even then, different people will experiment it with. Anyone who will experiment it with sincerity, they will get their result. After they get their result, they will say, this is the truth. Even if something is scientific, it's still not my truth. It will, only that I've conditioned to say that, okay, whatever is scientific is right. This is what we've conditioned to believe, that whatever. Science also keeps changing. Science keeps evolving. Today what science is saying, tomorrow science will teach us something else, because it is a learning. Experience nahi. This is my experience this minute. Next year my experience could be different, but for me this experience is my truth. So once you start experiencing it now, you don't need a scientific proof after that. Like once we've experienced affirmations, once we've seen it works, now even if some scientist comes and says, what, we've created it, this is how I said, okay, good, congratulations. But I don't need it because this is my experience. Of course, a lot of people would benefit from that in the world, but still in these kind of things where it is your self-change or where it's your inner work, even if everybody else is saying it's the truth, even if the whole world is telling you this is the truth, it's still not your truth. It is your truth only after you experience it. So even if some scientist had to create the whole science behind it and tell us, it would sound very convincing. Even today, if the scientist says the same thing, we say, हाँ, scientist बोल रहा है ना, तो ये कुछ right होगा. But has it become my truth? No. It is still that scientist's truth. It is still that doctor's truth. It is still Tanaaz's. When will it become my truth? When I will experience it. So don't wait for science. Don't wait for science. This is also science. This is the science of the inner mind. Keep doing your experimentation here. Don't wait for the world to do the experimentation. Keep doing it here. And most important, don't reject it by saying, oh, this is not scientific. What is not scientific about it? You create a thought, you create a result. This is science, pure science. It's energy. You create energy, energy comes back to you. This is science. Someone throws an emotion at you. You have a choice whether to reflect that energy back to them, whether to absorb that energy which is coming from them, whether to transform that energy and throw a completely different energy. Everything is scientific. But we love to say, no, I'm not spiritual. Everyone is spiritual. You're not using your spirituality as a different thing. Everyone is spiritual. Just like her experience, I met another TV actor who had come to the center, a couple of months back. And he said, what, something happened. He was accident, bedridden, spine injured. Most doctors in the city said, you will never be able to get up. Even if you stand, you will have to stand for 10-15 minutes and you will have to sit down. You cannot go back to your acting and everything. And he said, that's the time I was changing the channel and I came. And he heard this affirmation and he was like, kya bekar baat karti hai? Ye thodi work karta hai, I'm a powerful soul. So he completely rejected it in his mind. He's saying, but you know what, I had nothing to do. Because I was bedridden. I had nothing to do. So he said, I just started saying it. I am powerful soul. My body is perfect, healthy. I am running. I am walking. He said it became so much with me because I had nothing to do. Even when I was brushing my teeth, I was saying I'm a powerful soul. So that affirmation just became his normal thinking because he was not engaged with anything at all. After having met the top doctors of the country, Delhi, Bombay, everywhere, he was not getting solutions. He just kept doing this. He met someone who came and told him about some ancient therapy or something, and some faith healer in Ambala in one small town of Haryana Today that person is acting and he's back to normal. Nobody never say he's ever gone through something. But how did he invite that person into his life? That getting the right doctor, because you changed that energy and you said, I am going to be perfect. My body is perfect. I'm running. Now it is his truth. Now it is his truth. But he said, I rejected. He said, he told me, he said, I'm sorry, but I said, it's a bekar baat hai. This cannot work
No, like
at all.
what you said, that being a receiving station
Yes.
requires you to do some things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because when you talk to Gen Zs, and we work so much with the young people,
Yes.
everybody says, we are in an experiential economy, right? Everybody believes that the next set of consumerism also is about experiences. So I'm willing to travel somewhere and experience something, or food.
Yeah.
I'm willing to experiment and travel.
Yeah.
But when it comes to your inner
Inner
self,
experience. Yeah.
suddenly this experimentation and experience,
They have an aversion.
because what you rightly said, it's something you don't see,
Yeah.
or you don't relate to, or maybe in our earlier days of learning and going to school, we are taught to think very objectively and connect through our senses to what we can see, touch, and feel, and build our life basis that somewhere that learning.
And now
which
it's
was,
all the more, no? Now it's all the more that you're only always
with the
engaging
pandemic
with the
and with the
outside.
mental health and all, I think it has become so much. It's mainstream today, and I think anyone who is not even allowing themselves to experiment, I think is closing themselves to something that is so powerful. So I think one of our things through this podcast is to really, especially invite the young generation, to do that. And that also brings me, Tanaaz, you're a mother, you mentioned, of a 32, a 16 and a 12. This is like, the millennial, the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha, so to say.
All the
So
alphabets.
how has your parenting been different, for each, and how do you see that generation when it comes to things like spirituality and, acceptance of that, at a, or even not, let's not say spirituality, looking at your inner self, right?
I think that's such an interesting question. I would have never had time to sit and even retrospect or think about it. But I have been a totally different mother when I was mothering my 32-year-old, because at that time my life was filled with my dreams, my aspirations, how I would look, as a mother of, this baby and stuff like that. But yeah, my mothering has completely changed through the years. The way I was with my 32-year-old, I cannot be with my 12-year-old. I need to speak differently. I need to handle her differently. Plus, I'm also at a different age and stage of my life. Now I know everything will work out. It is what it is. I'm just going to speak. They're going to absorb at their evolution stage. I'm going to speak what I have learned, so that they can imbibe it at an earlier stage. I know all the wrong that I did before, and I know what I do not have to repeat now. But yes, parenting today is completely different. Because I just feel that in the old days, when a child was born, we kind of assimilated the child into the already existing family, coordinates, the dynamics, okay? The dad was always right. He was the breadwinner. Mom will just be the peacemaker. And this child came along and we just, said that, okay, this is our timetable, beta, just hang along, like move along. But now with the nuclear families, what has happened is everyone thinks that their beta and beti is, God sent, and there's nobody like my child. So now we have made our child the center of the universe, which should not be the case, because you are letting a child whose neocortex and decision-making center is not working, and she or he is leading the family. He's never heard no. He's never heard, we are not doing what you want, and we don't actually care. So they're thinking that, oh, I'm so privileged and this should happen to me. Well, no, it shouldn't, because you haven't really worked hard at it. And this is the real truth. So you better listen to it. And, it's like, you are not going to be the center of our universe. We are the center of our universe. We are going to make it work because we've lived long, we've had those experiences, and you come along for the ride and you don't question us. Unfortunately, we have just completely, I think, distorted the dynamics of parenting, because more often than not, the parents themselves are going through so many things, So I just feel that I don't blame them. I don't feel sorry for them. But yes, if they are aware, can we make them conscious of it? can we, kind of help them through that? Like, I remember a beautiful lesson that I learned from you, and I use it whenever I go for all my conscious parenting sessions, where ma'am said, Sister Shivani said, that when a child is small, he comes home and he tells you all about his day at school, and you listen to it very nicely and happily, and the child is smiling, and because your ego is happy that my child is listening to me. And slowly, slowly, that child grows up and comes and tells you about an incident where he might have robbed an eraser or done something wrong. And at that time, your face changes. And you're no more that happy mummy that my baby has come home. And then he stops telling you, because this is not making my mummy happy. So at that point of time, when your child is going to do something wrong, he is growing up, let him share those things with you at that moment. And then maybe you can correct it during the day, which is such a simple little lesson that I learned. And I learned it maybe right now. So I do that with my child. Even when she comes home and tells me everything that has happened in school, she's still going to school. Yeah. So, I have to, combat all those situations also. And so I use that. It's a part of conscious parenting. And then you teach her the lesson. Don't let her, just don't cut them at that level.
Many parents must be coming to you also, right, for very similar things. And, like what you rightly said, when you make a child the center of everything, the stress, the mental thing that the child goes through also is enormous, right? And with today's age, where there's so much pressure from society, parents, peers. So what are you seeing, mainly as trends for parents today, the challenges they are facing, and anything that you think, you can advise to parents, particularly when it comes to their children today's day and age?
See, first and foremost, like she said, it's what the parent is going through here. Mm. So what is our emotional health? That is going to be the vibration you're radiating to your child, and you're radiating that to the child right from the womb. So emotional health of the child is getting created in the womb, not just physical health is getting created in the womb. Emotional health, most powerful sanskar is garab sanskar, womb sanskar. Because when a soul is not yet attached to the body, it's not yet used the body, it's not. So 2 times our catching power is the highest of the soul. Coma, the soul can hear everything, catch everything. They can catch your every thought also. Your highest communication can be with somebody who's in coma, because they can catch your every energy, because they are detached. They are detached. Second, when the soul leaves the body, they can catch everything. That's why we were always taught कि जब कोई जाता है उनके बारे में बुरा नहीं बोलना कभी, अच्छा बोलना, because they know the soul can catch it. So second is when the soul leaves the costume, and the third is when the soul has entered the womb, not yet attached to the new body. Their catching power is highest. So if any parent uses those 9 months, that 9-month window, rest of the work is taken care of. Garab sanskar, very powerful. So at that time, what is the parent consuming in terms of reading, watching, listening, eating, thinking, speaking, vocabulary, personal relationship, husband, wife, work relationship? Everything is creating the emotional health of the child, because the child is not a body which is getting created in 9 months. The soul has entered. The soul has also entered with past sanskars. So when we say parent-child relationship, it's a soul and soul relationship. That soul is not 5 years old. The body is 5 years old. The soul was in a 100-year-old body just now, 6 years back. So look at them as a soul. You're a soul. Of course, there's a lot of conditioning of their present, but we still do a soul-to-soul communication. You don't say, ye bachcha hai. The soul understands everything. But what is very important now that is happening, what she so beautifully put, we are allowing them to make more of the choices. See, the other era was, this is our life, you will adapt to our life. Now it is, you tell us how to live.
Yeah.
So how do you expect the child to tell you the right way to live? The child has to learn from you, your experiences. Not that we are perfect and we are right always. So that ability to not listen to a no, because they didn't listen to a no. Because somewhere we learned from some other cultures, teach your child to make choices. So we started at that young age. So 3-year-old child, aap kya khayenge? 3-year-old child, you take them to the mall, which brand do you want to wear? How is that child supposed to know? So I ask mothers, how is that child supposed to know? I want to teach my child how to make choices. So they've taught their children how to make choices, but they did not teach their child how to adapt, how to tolerate, how to let go, how to listen to a no, how to do things which you don't want to do. Which means for us, if a parent says, we have to go there, we can say once, but you know what, I don't feel like going. We say, we didn't ask you whether you feel like going. We just said, we have to go. We could cry, we could crib, we could shout, we could scream, but we had to go. It was good to cry at that age. We are not crying today. Because that taught me that life will not always give me what I want. I will adapt. I have to adapt. And so at that age, that was my crisis. That is my crisis, that life has not come to me my way. Even having to have a meal which I don't like is actually adapting. But you ask a 3-year-old child, aapko kya khana? And you give him only or here what she likes. You're not. So this thing of giving a no, and especially I feel more in families where there's a lot of wealth now. You go to a second-tier city, it's still different because there's a lot of no happening over there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of no happening over there. And a lot of no is not happening also because we are trying to overcome the lack of time by just pleasing the child. So I'm spending only 2 hours with you. Abhi usme bhi main no bolun aapko to it's not right on my part. So I'm just being so perfectly nice to you, making you happy as if you're a guest to my house who's come for 2 hours. Because we meet only for those 2 hours. So then my 2 hours, I just want to be my best version. That's so that you are happy with me. I don't want you to feel upset or angry with me in those 2 hours because I'm anyways not there for the other 10 hours. So it is that era that we're going through. It's good to work. But don't compensate that because then you're not doing right for your child. Still be that strict parents. Strict meaning it's not, you're not aggressive. Acceptance, but strict. So a little no is needed and not easy accessibility to everything that the child wants, and make children do those things which they don't want to do. Which they don't want to do. They have to do it.
Kids learn early how to adapt, how to accept. How you said to let go sometimes. Because you have to, otherwise you will not be able to deal. And the earlier in life you learn to deal with that situation, when big things hit you, you already know, it's a part of life,
you
right?
know how to bend.
Otherwise, if you've never heard no, when it comes in, I think that will also become the next generation of parents. So if they have themselves,
they won't be able to teach.
How will they
like
relate
I was
to
a very naughty child and jabberbox, and my mom said, I told you when you come back from school, I'm sleeping. You can't utter a word. And she became so strict with me. You know how Parsi families are. She said, now I will punish you. So when you come back from school, you will serve tea to everybody. And you know how Parsi families have that tea with the kettle and the, that stuff. I had to go in the kitchen and make tea, pour it carefully into the teapot, then the milk, cover it, bring it very scared. I was bringing it on the dining table because if it fell, I would get another one from mummy. Put it on the table, set the teacups, put the cheese plate, get all the khakra, batasa, whatever. And I had to do that every day. And I hated my mother. And I had to dry the clothes. I hated her. I used to bitch about her to my elder sister. Okay, you are the perfect one. Always I am caught like this. And I remember once I was screaming and, we were like laughing when we were narrating a story. When I came back from school, I was still in my school uniform. Daddy, my sister and me were laughing away. And at that point of time, I was quiet. I didn't find the joke funny. But my mom knew Tanaaz is the naughty one. She came with a hanger, beat me twice and went away. I told you, keep your voice low, Tanaaz. Laugh like a lady. And then she went away. I started crying and my sister was laughing. She gave me a tissue. All those things actually taught us to be, to be proper. I think I remember those incidences so well. But try doing that with your children today and tell them you're punished, come out with tea and all. They'll be like, please, mama, do it yourself.
No, lovely. So, I think it's been such a interesting conversation and, we can keep going on all of these subjects. But, in this podcast, we also have something called the Mindful Minute.
Okay.
Right? So, just about 1 minute, some pointed questions. And we'll continue with this, parenting thing. Like we heard what Sister Shivani would give as advice. What would be your advice to new parents?
To new parents, I think that, I think it's mostly about emotional, your emotional quotient at that point of time. Like we were talking to these IT students, one of our Zoom calls that we were having, and I said, and one of the students said, today we don't want our family to tell us what to do and where to go, because obviously everything is available on Google and our parents haven't lived the life that we want to live. But what we want is emotional quotient. What really made a difference in my life was seeing my dad wake up every day, do his routine, go to work, come back. Every Friday, he would feed the cow, he would feed the poor. That is what I wanted. That is what kept me strong. I wanted him to lead his life the way he was leading it and leave me to my own devices. Learn, fall, fail. He was always there providing. But what they want is when they come home, are you emotionally available for them? And when this boy was speaking, I was learning from him. I was supposed to give the talk, but I walked away with this, from him. And it changed my life too. And I went back home, and now I make it a point to ask my daughter every single day. First question is, how was school? What did you eat? Who did you eat with? Were you happy when you were eating? What was in the tiffin? All these questions which just bonds us in a different way. I'm not worried about her studies. I'm more worried about her emotions that she's going through the day. And then in that downtime, she comes out and tells me what was happening and what she went through when the teacher was yelling at her. And she said, "Mummy, I was the only one not crying because I knew there was something good going to come out of this." So, this is
strength that you have built in that kid.
So, you have no idea. Emotions are just there. You just have to just be a comb to comb it out for them, like their hair. I just feel there's so much you can learn from anybody as long as you keep it open. So I think I would just tell the parents to be emotionally available. Don't be on your phone all the time. And then shout at the kids when they're on the phone, just because you finished,
Give them a phone when you're busy.
Yeah.
One exercise, maybe a mindful exercise, besides, or something very specific that parents and kids can do together.
Morning time. At least 5-10 minutes be together, even if it means deep breathing together. Together, why? Because if the parent is doing it, this will become natural for the child. You won't have to tell them after they're 15 years old, because by that time they would want no. And if you start, and we know a lot of families who are doing it from very early age, like 2-year-old child, come, let's sit together. This is our time to breathe together. So we are doing deep breathing. After that, we're just sitting in 1 minute silence. We are praying, whatever everybody is doing in every family. Make your child do that with you from that age, so that it becomes their lifestyle, not your lifestyle, which you are telling them to do after 15, because then they have their yes and no. So these simple morning routines, eating together without gadgets, and eating again with beginning with your little affirmation or prayer before eating. If you teach them when they are in kindergarten, they will do it for the rest of their life, because they would have already seen the benefit of it, and now your sanskar has become their sanskar. And if we could share with them the way to go to sleep, that again, putting away all this. So it's like 2 minutes there, 2 minutes here, and 2 minutes here. It's not some lot of time. 2 minutes before we go to sleep, we check the day. So journaling,
and
they
both
might not.
Parents typically should do it, or even if one.
Even if one does it, it's fine. Don't put too much pressure on them. They won't be able to handle it. Even if one parent does it, it's okay. It's just that, okay, we sit back, we reflect on the day. आज आपको कुछ बुरा लगा, आज आपको किसी से गुस्सा किया. Let's say sorry. I mean, it's so easy to do it with them when they are at that age. After that, you won't be around them always at that age, but that will become their sanskar.
One good part about parenting today is that both father and mother are genuinely at least we see in especially in urban centers, more invested in their parenting and child, and understand that there could be a lot more that they can do, and they go looking here and there. I mean, but you sometimes miss the simple things, whether through pregnancy or immediately after. Those few years initially can make a world of a difference, that you can spend the next 40 years of your life as a parent will not have that impact that what these few initial years. And I think that's a very powerful message, for
even
us
physical
to send
health,
out.
they teach 1,000 days. It's the first 1,000 days of the child, even for physical health. So 1,000 days is about 3 years, right? And if you add the womb period, so let's say it's 2.5, 3 years, whatever. Same thing with emotional health also. Same thing to create the sanskar also. So those 1,000 days used for both physical and emotional. Easiest time to instill the sanskar, because the soul has yet not created their ego. They've not yet gone into the vibration of the school. They're not under the influence of peer pressure. Whatever you teach now, It stays with them as their sanskar, not your sanskar. It's become their sanskar.
Maybe as Think Right, we should bring out,
I
you
think
know,
we
the
should.
1,000-day manual to
Yes.
parenting. From the day you know you've conceived, for the
Yes.
next 1,000 days, both physically and emotionally, you know, what can one do? I think it's a very powerful
Yeah, I think this
way
will be a real game
to think
changer.
about it, because everyone is keen to know, what should I do? Where is my, you know, what's that guide, right? And if one can navigate, to help navigate scientifically as well as, you know, through some more, you know,
immediately
spiritual
as
thought,
Sister
it can make
Shivani
a-
spoke, I
Yeah.
thought about my pregnancy. I immediately thought about the first 3 years. Am I safe?
Yeah.
Was I okay?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Next one to you. So what's the mindfulness exercise you do before you go to set, before you go to act?
Oh,
Because when you go to
always.
act, you're playing something you're not, right?
Always. I put myself into state. Even before I take a class, I put myself into state. It's a technique called anchoring, which I didn't know, but there are certain movements, certain actions I do, which always give me the same result, that I'm smiling, happy and ecstatic.
Like what? Can you take us through that action?
Yes,
Is
I
it
learned it
possible?
actually at with my mentor Tony Robbins, and it's an actual way that, you know, when you take off, when you're running, that stance that you take, and I do it in a stationary position very fast, and it'll always take me directly in 2 seconds to the state of complete happiness, because I've anchored it in that state. It's just a advanced technique of NLP, and it makes me ecstatic. I'm in state, I'm happy, I know the reasons why I'm doing this, even if I'm tired or I've had a very long day, because this is my time to give back to society. There may be any amount of souls there which need me to guide them for that particular time. So all these thoughts, emotions and state that I have to be in, so I do that before I take my class. And of course, when I get up in the morning, I do my affirmations, I give myself a high five in the mirror, I speak to myself while I'm brushing, and I have to do that to set my day. Before I open my eyes, I'm always grateful for everything and anything, whatever I want to be grateful for that day, before I open my eyes. And then I say my prayers as soon as I touch my feet to the ground, and then, of course. But yeah, before the session, before I take the sessions, I have to prime myself in state. And that's what even Tony Robbins teaches. Get yourself into state before you do any big work. So you get your energy from there. And then, you know, even the course is like 3 hours, I don't feel tired. You know, I just don't feel tired.
One phrase you tell yourself
Before a program,
anytime, any one phrase or something.
mine is opposite. I have to get into a state of complete stillness. Complete stillness, which means there should be nothing here. You know, if I've been thinking about something, it has to all be cleaned before you're going in to meet someone or before you're going on to a program, which means your mind should not be working. Put it into stillness, surrender, and now let it happen. So completely opposite. I have to just completely, I even go into silence for at least 15-20 minutes before a program. I'll not talk to anybody. Of course, you meet someone on the way, but not engage. I'd say we meet after the program. We meet after the program. You owe it to the people you're there. You have to not just be physically there, you have to be here. So just silence, stillness, surrender, use me.
So preparation is needed for everything that one does. I think it's so important. And people miss that, and they go from one to another without any prep. I
Reach
think that's
everywhere at least 20 minutes before time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Reach everywhere 15. There's no concept of reaching on time. It's always before time, and then use that time for your silence. Because if you're just reaching on time, and then that traffic and that road and that other person getting worried because you've not reached here is also vibration that's coming to you. So all these little simple things allow you to remain
mentally in the right.
Like if it's an 8 o'clock class, I'll be on my table at 7. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And even my kids know that. And they keep teasing me that it's an 8 o'clock class, you're sitting from 7. I said, no, I'm getting into state. I think they're bored of hearing this line from me.
So the last one to you is that you stay so positive, right? If you're playing a negative character, right, you're acting, there is a difference between what you're acting and someone throws that to you. How do you still stay positive? Is there, or do you do a character that is negative? Would you refrain? You would, right? So how do you handle that situation?
Yeah, so I played this fantastic negative character in Apna Time Bhi Aayega, and I just had to emulate my mother. understated, absolutely crisp and very, to the point. And I think I totally nailed it. I think when I'm playing a negative character, I'm just thinking of the craft. I don't have to become negative, and every negative character doesn't have to be like I think a demon. So there's a lot of negativity even in silence. There's a lot of negativity in my looks. There's a lot of negativity in my tonality, which I will deliver to you. So I take it a little deeper. I don't like to play it like how everyone would play a negative character, but it never affects me. Never affects me. Once I leave the set, I've forgotten about them. I don't even know their names. I have to reinvent everything when I reach back at the set. I have this ability, I don't know how. And once I reach home, I forget I'm an actress. And once I'm at acting, I forget I'm a mother. So
Both
sometimes
ways,
I have been taunted for that you've forgotten us at home. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but that's how it is going to be. We're always last on the list. So I said, thank God you made it to the list. It's like that. Yeah, you have to departmentalize, yeah.
And last one to you. When something negative comes, I mean, I'm sure it's been a journey for you. How do you handle it? I mean, of course, you go back, you realize it's negative, but is there some, I don't know, is there a guiding, something that you hold on to all the time whenever that comes?
Negative in terms of situation?
Anything. It
Negative
could be
in terms of thinking.
your own thought sometimes.
So now, because
I'm sure it's reduced a lot.
it's reduced, and most important, it's visible. That negative thought is visible. It's like a stain. So the cleanliness phobia is increased, right? So now if I'm not interested in cleanliness, I wouldn't even notice all these things. But now if that cleanliness frequency, then I like, ye bhi kyun hai, ye bhi kyun hai, ye bhi kyun hai, automatically. And once you see the stain, it's easy to clean. Cleaning the stain is not a problem. Seeing the stain is the problem. So once, every morning we are studying. So every morning it is like, ye hoga to ye hoga to. Like yesterday, the lesson that we learned yesterday morning was, koi aapki ninda kare, कोई आपकी इंसल्ट करे, कोई आपका अपमान करे, कोई आपको दुख दे, तो आप शुभ भावना नहीं दे सकते. बस, from that 1 hour lesson, now take this one line. Now in the whole day, things will happen, people will not be your way. Your mind will say, but, and then suddenly you will remember that morning, आप शुभ भावना नहीं दे सकते. So the stain is visible. First thing, it's visible. Now how much time I want to take to clean the stain will be my choice, but because I'm prioritizing, I want to raise my vibration, I will tend to do it faster. Sometimes it takes long if I'm just still, but why did they do it? So it's only our ego which works on that, nothing. Cleaning the stain is still 1 second, but my ego will say, but they should have not done it. So I'm wasting my time thinking about them, which after some time I will say, what a waste of time this was. Cleaning is very easy, just seeing the stain.
No, and I think it's always that ego that is like working in an opposite direction.
Of course. But now you see your ego also, and you know it's ego, and then you say like, but still I want to think why. And sometimes again how ego, I said, but I want to get into the mind of this person and think, why was he thinking like this? So it's super ego only that is. But why does this person think like, what made him speak like this? Like, okay, give up.
Then suddenly you realize, if I remove the ego from this, it's all done.
It's all
there's nothing. I mean, then you're in that higher state, and where you're just blissful, right? Irrespective. I think it's been a phenomenal conversation. Such an interesting, example of someone who has, been through, changed
example
so much.
of power of affirmation.
And mindfulness as well as manifestation. So again, thank you so much, Tanaaz.
Thank you,
Shivani, for this lovely conversation.
Thanks.
You too can start or enhance your mindfulness journey using the Think Right app on iOS and Android store. It's got a huge number of daily affirmations, daily journeys, daily meditations that will enable us to hold your hand as you move in this transformative journey of life.